I want to call this one Roman Catholic or Catholic. These were the words that Newman said after he'd finished the essay on development of doctrine. He said, I began to call them not Roman Catholics, but just Catholics. And then I resolved to join the true church. This became important for the vision Newman had of the true church. When he asked Dominic Barbary to baptize him, he said, I wish to join the Church of Christ. Now, he meant exactly that in those words. But he had that distinction between the Church of Christ, and he said later on that the Church of Christ is there, the true church is there in the Catholic Church. But that didn't mean that everything about the church was divine. He had the idea that the incarnation brought Jesus down to earth, and he thinks the church should be down to earth. It's composed of what Christ gave it, and therefore divine, but also what Christ gave it as a man. He handed it over to men, and he told them to get on with it and to guide the church, to be in charge of the church. And he expected them to be good at it, but he also expected them to be human, and therefore bad at it in some circumstances. The Roman Church in the time of Newman had held steadfast for centuries, and it had two rock-solid principles. One is a unanimity of the teaching of doctrines. And number two, the backbone of the church, was the system of authority, a kind of control and command hierarchy from the Pope downwards to the smallest layperson. And there was all this grades of authority in the hierarchy. They held that as to be the backbone of the church, and the other thing that authority ensured that the doctrine was uniform. Now, Newman saw that there was he came to the stunning conclusion of a reversal. There is in the true church a strong movement at the present, and this movement asks the critical question, does that structure of the hierarchy express Jesus Christ? And the second question is, does this uniformity of doctrine show the good news? Because after all, the church is human expression through baptism of the Holy Spirit of the divine human Jesus. This whole movement of reversal is a central point of the teaching of Cardinal Newman. As a very gentle Christian gentleman, Newman did not, at least in public, want to cause harm to anyone in the church leaders. He said in his definition of a gentleman is one who does not willingly cause pain. He was careful in his writings, as he had written to James, his friend, that he should not participate in a kind of agitating way of the controversy in the church. In our times, his private views, which he did express to his friends, as in his written personal letters, his real views have been revealed when these letters were published, a thing he never dreamt of course. They were private letters, they were private, and they would remain private. He didn't publish them, but other people did. The 31 volumes of them and you can find them in the rather top-class libraries, and you can read them yourself. And in those letters, he does more than hints at his views. In fact, he seems to pull no punches in private when he had only given hints in public. Now that we know from these letters what his views are, we can state some of them. As he says in one of his letters, "As an Englishman, I do not like a Romaic religion, and I have much to say against the Romaic Catholic Church, but I do not account myself to be a worse Catholic for this." At his reception into the church by Dominic, he did ask to join the Church of Christ, and so his criticism of the Romaic Church was not a criticism of the church he was joining, but of the aberrations in the church when they were fashioning themselves after what they imagined was the Romaic or fanciful Roman style. Because after Constantine, when Christianity became a state religion, there was such a surge of feeling in favour that actually the best model for creating an organisation to run this show was the Roman organisation, the quasi-military command and control, authoritarian, practical, forthright, successful, worldly. The Church gradually, over the ages, adopted this as its own, and yet it kept in mind what Jesus had said to Pilate, "My kingdom is not of this world." So they did imitate the structures and the authoritarian attitude of the medieval monarchs and princes, and themselves became virtual princes and monarchs. And that flattered their vanity anyway. And many of the faults that we find in the church comes from this imitation of the state, whereas Jesus had said that his kingdom was not of this world. But he went further. He said, if you want to become a Catholic, you have to give assent to what is in the Church de Fide, but you need not give internal assent to all the utterances that come out of the Roman officials, not even the Pope as a private doctor of theology. As a new convert, he himself took 3 steps in Rome, which showed this vision again of his division of the Roman Catholic from Catholic. He withdrew himself as a student in Rome after his conversion from the official theology of the Roman Church, the theology of the school of a Roman university. He went to the lectures, and being an Oxford don of acute sensibilities, he found that the teachers had not even read their Aristotle and their Aquinas, but they taught a kind of textbook theology, like repeating the sentences of 150, many years ago. He felt that they had no view on the matter, and he said to his companion, St. John Ambrose, we can see in this remark that Newman was drawing the distinction between a Romanized Roman Catholic and a non-Romanized Catholic.